Welcome back to our new bee haven with carpenter bees way down there, bumblebees that have created a hive here, and more carpenter bees living down there. Hi everybody, it's Robbie from Southern California, and we're back at the Bumblebee site, the Bumblebee Hotel. Let me tell you something, there were so many people talking about carpenter bees, which we do have, and Gary will explain that more. But the thing is, this actually here, the silk floss, is not a place they're just drilling and living. This turned out to be one of their hives. They can live, bumblebees, 20 to 200 in a hive. These are true bumblebees, and this has just been fascinating to watch, and I know Gary's going to turn this into a bee haven, but we're going to explain more what we were doing. We got up early this morning. It was still foggy, and we were sitting here watching them go in and out, and I've got some really good shots. You'll see here, there's one that's very light, but you can see the yellow stripes. They've got 4 yellow bands. Now the other one came in. Now keep in mind, these things are moving really fast. And you can see how deep yellow it was, probably a large female. But we noticed that what they were doing was they were going over to Gary's garden, which is just past those Brazilian pepper trees. So we, thank goodness, ventured over there, and they were feeding on the chia plant that Gary planted, you know, like you do at Chia.
Chia pets.
Chia pets. So we had some chia seeds. I actually had bought it from the grocery store, and I had it in the freezer for 2 years. And he planted some in his garden, ended up with the beautiful salvia plants. Well, they were feeding there. So they were traveling all the way over there. And we went over there, like I said, foggy early morning, watching them, and they were coming back here. Now, it's good we did that, because what happened was, when we checked back, they stopped feeding there, which means they've pulled all the nectar and pollen and everything they wanted out of the flowers that had already opened, and they were done, and then they ventured somewhere else because it seemed like it was taking them longer to come back. But Gary's got a lot to say about his bumblebees, so what did you want to say?
Okay, I think a lot of the comments are coming from people on the East Coast, because the carpenter bees on the East Coast have yellow on them. Our carpenter bee species on the West Coast do not. They're black or dark brown, and they don't have any yellow. And what I think is confusing is this tree here isn't really woody. It's very soft, it's like balsa wood. And I think what they've found is they've found holes and cracks to get into it, and because it's so soft, they're able just to break it away because it's very soft. It's like balsa wood. So if you're familiar with balsa wood, it's not really wood at all. It's kind of a herbaceous plant. This tree is a herbaceous tree. So they can tunnel into it. So that's what they've been doing. But this has also got a lot of cracks in it. So they probably originally found a crack or a crevice, worked their way in, and it may be hollow inside. Well, it's going to be hollow inside, so this will be big enough for them to colonize.
And like I did some research as well to find out that they're opportunists. They will nest, if you want to call it that, in a lot of different places, anything that's easy, and they like being somewhat low to the ground. It could even be a deck like carpenter bees, whatever they find that they can use.
Yeah, they will. Usually, most people are familiar with them nesting in the ground, but they will nest close to the ground. Carpenter bees generally nest up a lot higher, and of course, there is the distinctive difference between a carpenter bee and a bumblebee with the abdomen, the hairiness on the abdomen.
The problem is we're pretty sure what species it is. I'm going to let Gary say it, because there's 2. Now, they could be a mutation of one or the other. I think possibly, being that their numbers are coming down and they're so close, they probably could even hybridize if, you know, possible. But I think it's the one that they call the California. How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, there is the Latin name, which is Californiaceus. We'll have to put that up on the screen.
I'll put it up so they can see it, because there's 2. It could be the other one.
Crocei.
It's either one of those. I'm leaning towards the one of the California.
The Californicus.
because they tend to have the striped bottom, but it could be either one of those two, whichever one. We're very fortunate to have bumblebees because it's been years. I should say, there were years that went by that we never even saw any bumblebees around here.
Yeah, I think one must have moved in. They found somewhere where they could find a place to colonise, and we've been very fortunate. So what we can do now is we can continue on it, and I'll set things up so that we can produce more here.
Very cool. A very interesting find, all because I came down to get a couple stumps for my bird garden, and they started flying all around us.
Yeah, I'll build this up just briefly. Yesterday, or in the other video, I found a spot that had been filled in, and this may very well be a carpenter bee. Oh, here it is, because that has been blocked over. So perhaps a carpenter bee did go into that, and this is very hard wood compared to the other wood over there.
So here is where you've got in the middle the hive where the bumblebees are doing their thing. And then you've got all this other wood. Well, of course, the whole place is the perfect habitat. And then there we do have a carpenter bee that found this. This is mimosa, and the carpenter bee just went in and has not come out. They're solitary bees. So when they go in, they have a tunnel, and then that's, they lay their eggs or whatever they're doing in there. But there is a carpenter bee in there right now, has not come out.
So they're definitely in there. This may have been a carpenter bee because they can go into harder wood.
Well, this is a good habitat for all kinds of native bees to come in, not just them, but they've taken that over. That particular long silk floss trunk is their hive, their thing. And so that's what's going on here. So they are bumblebees, they're not carpenter bees. Like I said earlier, the only carpenter bees we have here in Southern California, or I should say California, they're black and they don't have the deep yellow stripes. They don't have that kind of coloring here.
This is the stump that tree came from, and if you can see, that's maybe 30 inches long, 10 inches in diameter, and it's very light.
It's kind of like styrofoam.
Styrofoam or balsa wood.
Balsa wood, yeah, very, very, very light. So that's it. I have sat here all morning watching them. I've noticed that they go in one hole like here, then they will come out someplace else, and they'll go in maybe underneath, and then they'll come out on this end. They obviously have tunnels in there that they're living and storing food. They do collect food, I was told, and do produce some honey, but only for themselves, not enough. That's why people don't use them like honeybees, like Gary's bees that are behind us. That's different. Those produce an overabundance of honey, but bumblebees do not. Only enough for themselves and for the young that are going to be raised.
That's pretty much it that I can think of.
So hopefully we've answered some of the questions on are they carpenter bees or are they bumblebees? They are bumblebees. And like I said, it was a beautiful sight to see in Gary's garden this morning as they were foraging through the beautiful purple flowers that were growing there on the salvia plant. The chia, the same chia seeds from your chia pet. Mine came from the grocery store, and then he's thinking of planting some more in areas that's not too full of sun. The one I had growing that was in straight sun has already died back a lot. They apparently don't like the heavy sun. A little bit of shade is good for your salvias. So I guess with that, have a wonderful, wonderful day.
And don't forget to eat what you grow.
Bye-bye. So this happened right after we finished with doing this update on our bumblebees. We were filming the bumblebee here on the wood, and we didn't know what he was doing. It turned out you saw he was
feeding another bumblebee.
Isn't that odd? So he came to a hole, and the other bumblebee stuck his head out.
Stuck his head out, or his or her head out, and he or she was feeding him.
Never seen that before. It's very different than honeybees. Yeah, it was the coolest thing to watch. And he was ignoring us, thank goodness, he or she. If it's a female, they can sting. But we were right there, and you could see, Gary saw right away that it's feeding another bumblebee inside the log. So that was a cool treat to share with you. And that was something I've never seen before. Oh, wow.